Hey y'all, welcome back. This is Lori Eberly, founder of RADIUS Executive Coaching and Development and the co-author of Fuckery. This is episode 2 of Fuckery 101, where we explore the bad habits that damage trust, especially during crisis, which counts when you're in the middle of a pandemic. We're going to go back to the Fuckery deck, which we explored yesterday, whatever. It's really hard to keep up with the days, isn't it? Today we're going to explore deceiving, overly accommodating, and turfing. Deceiving. Okay, if you're joining us for the first time today, what I'm doing is I'm reading habits, patterns, or behaviors that can reduce trust and belonging where we work. Certainly in our personal relationships too, but my expertise is in talking about professional relationships and leadership. So deceit is going to quickly damage those relationships. That one's pretty obvious. Deceiving, though, has some more subtle undertones as well. I think that deceit might show up at work in how we may imply to other stakeholders how long we've been working on a project. We can be deceitful about timelines and resources. If I agree to a due date of May 15th and I know there's no way in hell I'm going to be complete by then, it's deceitful. It's deceitful when we play dumb. It's deceitful when we omit key information. It's deceitful when we manipulate numbers to tell the story that we want. I think we can be deceitful with our customers. We can be deceitful with our boss. We can be deceitful with our colleagues. And again, I'm going to assume best intentions here and that you're not outright lying, manipulating, purposely and intentionally trying to deceive your colleagues. Some of you are. That's not who I'm talking to. What I want to do is hold up a mirror for the other 95% of people that are watching this. And I want you to take a minute and think about, how have I been deceitful in the last week? How have I been deceitful while working from home? How have I been deceitful on my team? And maybe you just flat out can't think of anything. Okay. I don't know who you are. Maybe it's true. Maybe you're never deceitful. You know what? I think we can also be deceitful to ourselves. I think that we can set expectations for ourselves that are completely unreasonable to meet. That we're deceiving ourselves into thinking that we can accomplish that. That we are deceiving ourselves to think that we can go hard 24/7 in the middle of a freaking pandemic or crisis. We can't. It's not sustainable. So I encourage you to think about, does the fuckery, deceit, or deceitfulness show up? Never, sometimes, always. And to get really honest about ways that you might need to be more honest with yourselves about how and when that shows up. Okay, the second one, overly accommodating. I could talk a long time about that because that shows up on my fuckery map, which is part of chapter 2 if you're interested in learning how to do a fuckery map of your own. Overly accommodating is a little bit about that deceit of what you're capable of doing, right? So that means if, like me, you're a really helpful person. If, like me, you maybe have some people-pleasing fuckery that you need to be honest about. If you really pride yourself in taking one for the team and being reliable and being responsible and being that go-to person, that it causes you to say yes to too many things, then you are guilty of the fuckery of over-accommodating. And over-accommodating happens when we're not willing or able to set boundaries. It happens when we're not willing or able to say no, or willing or able to negotiate. Yes, I can do that, but you're going to have to help me reprioritize, boss. Yes, I can do that, but not by Tuesday. I'm going to need to at least Friday. I think a lot of us are over accommodating with our clients and our customers. We want our clients to like us. We want our customers to be happy. So sometimes we coddle them. Sometimes we tell them what they want to hear and not what the reality is. And we are not direct with them. And that catches up with us. The danger of over accommodating is that there are receipts. And you might get away with this for a while. You might get away with this for years, in fact. But the price of over accommodating is feeling exhausted. It's feeling like you've become a workaholic and you have no private life. It is not ever prioritizing your own health or your family or your hobbies or your other interests because you are constantly accommodating the needs of others. So this is very different flavor, right, than deceiving, which feels like a form of fuckery that none of us would want to admit to being deceiving. Overly accommodating, this shows up a lot, and I'd like you to think about maybe where that has shown up for you this week. And if it doesn't show up for you, why that's not your fuckery, right? Like maybe you didn't even realize you had a strength, that this is not your struggle. Over accommodating. And then the last one we'll talk about today is turfing. And what I love about this fuckery deck is that it originally came together on some index cards about 4 years ago when John Sable, my co-author, was visiting me here in Portland. And we just began to write out on every index card every form of fuckery that we had experienced, what we were guilty of, what we had seen in the workplace over 40 plus years of combined work experience. And that came up with a big list. But then many years ago, I started doing focus groups, and I would go in and work with teams to help build trust and belonging. And I would ask them to find a form of fuckery in the deck that I would spread out on the table. And sometimes people would dare to say, I don't do any of those, or allude to the idea that the 200 examples on the table did not represent them or their behavior. And while this is not true, over accommodating Lori is like, okay, if none of these fit, then write one that does. And turfing is one that a former client wrote down, and it is what it sounds like, right? It's that a lot of us can get very territorial at work about what's mine and what's yours, right? That's my client, that's my lane, that's my area of expertise, that's my region. And when we get highly territorial and really turfy, might fall into some alpha male behavior, but that would insinuate that other folks, other genders, could not participate in turfing. And turfing is that it's high ownership, right? I mean, that's cool. Like you've got a real sense of this is mine and I own it. But the turfing is going to threaten a sense of belonging. Turfing is not going to foster teamwork. Turfing is a very I-centered approach that does not allow the input, the feedback, the cooperation, the suggestions of other people in your team. And while there's a time and a place to stay in your lane, and it is important that we have good boundaries around who's doing what, turfing, if you need a visual, it's a little bit more of that like mad dog chained behind the fence in your neighborhood, right? That's very clearly saying, get on my property and I'm going to kick your ass. And we don't want to show up like that at work. It's generally not a good look on any of us. So deceiving, over accommodating, and turfing is the fuckery we talked about today. Maybe they don't apply to you. My guess is that on your worst day, when you're really, really stressed, they are more likely to show up than when you're your best self. So think about those. If you're curious about other forms of fuckery, you can find them online. You can also look at the link below, RadiusECD.com. That's Radius Executive Coaching and Development, where you can find more about self-awareness, self-regulation, communication, emotional intelligence, and tools that will help you to reduce your fuckery. I'm Lori. Look forward to seeing y'all again later. Bye-bye.